David Shields. I've been threatening you for a long time that I'm going to have you on Jazz Piano Skills, and I've made good on my threat. Here we are.
You have, and I'm trembling. No, this is going to be good fun.
Yes, it is going to be fun, man, because, I've known you now. You've joined Jazz Piano Skills. Well, I guess what, maybe a couple years ago now? Has it been that long?
Couple of years? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
probably,
we've got
yeah,
to
just
know
on
each
2
other,
years.
know each other. 2 years, yeah. So we've got to know each other back and forth over those 2 years' time. And I'm fascinated with just how much you know about jazz. You're like a walking encyclopedia of jazz. And I'm also fascinated because you are a professional athlete and trainer, a tennis coach, and I want to talk about all that stuff today as well in relationship to jazz studies. But before we get off to the races here, I want to just kind of turn the microphone over to you, and I want you to share and introduce yourself to the Jazz Piano Skills community. Man, tell us about your childhood, your background, how you got into music, how you got into this love of jazz that you have. So just the mic is yours, my friend. Just fill us in.
And we've only got 3 days to do this.
Right. Well, we can make it 4. We can make it 4.
Well, seriously, I feel a bit of a ring in here. I feel like I've jumped the queue in front of a whole lot of others who, and the other interviews you've done with professional musicians and Jamie Aebersold, and how do I compare with that? That's impossible. But it's a real treat to be on here and be able to talk with you. I started long time ago playing piano. Had a piano in the house. Grew up in the middle of Kansas. And there was always music around there. I listened to everything my mother had. I've still got her 78 albums of Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey. We grew up with that music. Frank Sinatra, show tunes. So there was always music in the house, and there was always something around. And the piano was a huge part of what we did. My sisters and I both took lessons. I think I had the better teacher, but she... I don't know why we got split up, but no, I had a brilliant teacher when I was growing up, to the point that I was playing mostly classical, almost all classical at that point. But to learn things that really made a big impact on my music life and what I've done since then, things like learning the Chopin Military Polonaise when I was 11 years old. And I still play it. It's something that I don't know, but what I have learned from you, and this is really, really important, is that's only pushing buttons. That's all it is. And what I've learned from you in the last 2 years about the difference in learning music or actually playing music and understanding it, my head is just exploding every week. And you've got to understand that you have given us over 2 years. I've got about 2,000 pages of lesson notes from you. I don't have enough time left in the world to learn all this stuff, but it's really, really important. And I went on, and I played piano for a long time, and then went to college, kept playing. And I suppose growing up, I was asked to play things in school concerts or a lot of recitals and things, and that just kept me going. But I went to college and then went into the Army, and I was introduced to Jay McShann when I was in the Army. Now, my mother introduced me to him. This isn't just she played me his music and that she actually introduced me to him. I was home on leave one weekend. This was in probably February 1973, I think. And my parents picked me up. We drove to Wichita and went to the Canterbury Inn in Wichita. She said, I've got to introduce you to somebody. Walked in there, and here's Jay McShann sitting at the piano with Paul Gunther in the corner playing drums and Claude Williams on the bass and the violin.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I'm hoping everyone knows who Jay McShann is and was. As one of the great Kansas City blues pianists, had his own big band. He was instrumental in getting Charlie Parker his first start. It took him, Charlie worked with Jay for years and years, and then they both went to New York and they changed directions. But to sit in that little club right next to him and watch him play, and to listen to Claude Williams, who, and I remember, who was it? Bert talked about, one of your other interviews, talked about meeting Claude and playing with Claude Williams.
Burt Ligon.
Just incredible.
Right.
To be a part of that and part of that history was really something. I've got a couple other Jay McShann stories I'll tell you. They both have bittersweet endings, but they are good. But from there, went back to college. Still playing tennis all the time. Started teaching tennis in 1975, I think. So I've been teaching about 47 years now. Pretty much full time around the world, and it just went on from there. Was offered a chance. Was working at a tennis club in Florida with Harry Hopman, and there was a French family who came through. One of their sons was playing. Went out to dinner with them one night. They said, "Would you come and be Pierre's private coach in Lyon?" So I went to France for 4 years and played.
Wow.
Taught there and played, but still kept playing piano. I found a teacher there who was a friend of the families there. The most amazing teacher I've ever had. French, except for you, but.
Okay.
She was an amazing teacher to the point that I would go in there for my lesson on Sunday afternoons, 45-minute lesson. And almost every week she would say, "Oh, that's pretty good, but let's stay, have dinner with the family, and then we'll go back and play some more." So we did. She asked me to play things that I had no business playing. I've got an autographed copy she sent me a copy of Chopin's Polonaise Fantasy that is just mind-boggling.
Right.
But one year, it happened to happen on my birthday. One year, she invited her teacher, Madeleine de Valmallet, to the house. And Madame de Valmallet came in and played a concert for us. All the Chopin preludes, start to finish, from memory. Gosh. She was 86 years old at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
And we just sat there and listened to that. And I was doing some research a few months ago just to see what her history was. It turns out, and now Amy and Nancy and Anita will enjoy this, the finger exercise in independence is Isidore Philipp, who wrote 2 volumes of finger independence. Absolutely incredible, much better than Hannon and Czerny and all of those. But Madame de Valmallet was a student of Isidore Philipp in Paris at the conservatory. So this is where I go back to the history of the generations and the connections that I've had with the piano, and it's all classical right now up to that point. So this is where I'm on my journey now with you and with working on jazz, and that's playing jazz is one thing. I've been involved with it for a long time. I've been doing radio work in Melbourne for about 20 years, producing and presenting jazz programs. So that's where I get a lot of contact with the musicians, emceeing jazz festivals, and album launches and interviews and all of that. Right. That's why I say I feel like I'm on the wrong side of the mic here, because I'm so used to interviewing people instead of being interviewed. So I don't get to talk this much.
Right.
But the people I've met, And one of your great sayings, and you do it all the time. The greatest thing about music is the people you meet, and
Oh,
I
correct.
absolutely agree with that. And it's true with tennis as well. I've met some amazing
Yep.
people
Right.
through tennis, traveling around the world.
Right.
But the music,
Right.
the people that I've met through interviews and concerts and listening to
Right.
sit down and talk with Charlie Hayden, or sit and
Right.
talk with
Right.
Lee Konitz
Right.
or Jack DeJohnette,
Oh my
to
goodness.
be able to sit and talk with these people and find out,
Hmm.
what's it like? Why do you play the way you play? And what you talked about in
Right.
the master class the other day. How do you practice improvisation? What
Right.
do you do?
Right.
And I was able to talk with these guys, and I asked Lee Konitz one time, what are your favorite things to play, and how do you keep playing so many things over the years?
Right.
And he said, I only play about a dozen tunes. And that's why I play all the things you are, because it's infinitely changeable. You can do anything with it.
Right.
And to hear
Right.
that from him, who'd
Yes.
been at
Right.
the at the birth of the cool with Miles Davis,
Right.
that's incredible to
Man.
listen to that and to be able to hear him. So, I've had some really really fortunate chances to meet people and talk with them and just sit. Um,
Yeah.
the two Jay McShann story. I've got to share these with you. There,
Please.
the
Please.
first one was playing a concert. He was playing at a jazz festival in Salina, Kansas, and I'd caught up with him a few times. They had the break. He came over the table. We're sitting chatting, and I said, it's really great. Some of the things that you just used to do with Charlie Parker, that was really groundbreaking, and things that you got him to do. And he said, I think I've got some old tapes somewhere that we might have recorded years ago. Here's my address in Kansas City. Stop by sometime and pick him up. And my jaw went. I
Yeah. No
could
doubt.
not
Right. Yeah.
believe it. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah. No doubt.
that was just incredible. He gave me his address, wrote it on the back of a deposit slip out of his checkbook.
Oh
But
my.
I think I've still got it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's
But
hilarious.
but I never got. I was playing a tennis tournament in Kansas City one year, and I was going to look him up and just never had a chance to do it. We did catch up a few times after that. Once in France, I was in Lyon working at a tennis club, coaching this kid, and went into the local music shop. The big poster on the wall, Ella Fitzgerald playing at this outdoor amphitheater.
Mm-mm.
This is in the middle of July in the summer in France, beautiful time. Ella Fitzgerald with opening act Jay McShann and the quartet. Now, of course, you got to see Ella, but I was really
Oh,
happy to see
right.
Jay again. And there was a girl at the tennis club who I was teaching English to this group of business people, and one of the people in the class, she was a big jazz fan. I said, "Look, you want to go see Ella Fitzgerald?" "Yeah, great, that's great." So off we went, and I went down. We got there, got our seats, and then Jay and guys were warming up and getting set up. And I went down to the stage and just said, "Hi, how's it going?" Caught up a little bit. And he said, "Hey, look, when we finish the set. Come backstage and we'll have a chat. We'll catch up." And there's my dilemma. I'm at a concert to watch Ella Fitzgerald with with this girl who's interested in Ella Fitzgerald, didn't know Jay McShann at all.
Right.
So what's my choice? What's my choice? Jay finished his set, and I I did what I knew I had to do. So I made sure I got her a ride back to no, I didn't. No, no, we sat there and
Right. Oh my.
we, we saw Ella, and the one thing that strikes me most about Ella Fitzgerald was Paul Smith at the piano.
Mm.
Absolutely incredible. He only died a few years ago, but he was an absolute giant, and accompanied Ella for
Mm-hmm.
years. Brilliant pianist,
Right. Right.
absolutely brilliant. So it was
Yeah.
worth it. No, I did see Jay a few times after that anyway, so I didn't miss too much.
Right.
But
Yeah,
yeah, and I made the right choice. So,
you made the right choice.
but
You made the right choice.
this is the yeah, this is the mix of tennis and music, and I'm so glad that I'm doing this journey with you right now, because I love it. I absolutely love it, but it's driving me crazy. I I I just there's so much to learn, and it's so much more difficult.
Oh, there.
it
Right,
it
right,
is it is
right.
so difficult compared to the classical piano. I, I'm playing.
Right.
When I was in Florida, I had a teacher there who forced me to do a solo concert, and she said, "You're gonna play this concert. It's an hour-long program. You pick whatever you want to play, but you also have to compose two pieces." And oh,
Oh my
okay.
goodness.
So I did, and and it was recorded. I don't know what happened to the recording; it's gone. But one of the pieces I did a prelude, recorded, wrote one, and then the second one, very very catchy title. I called it Composition Number One, and
You're
that was
right.
it.
Right.
But
Classic. Classic. Oh,
uh, but that's a sort of pushing that I've had to play things that are beyond me. And you talk about this all the time. You've got to go beyond your comfort level and just keep going. So now we're in the key of B major. Uh, I'm still, it really is not that easy, but it's fun. It's so much
yes.
fun to
Right.
be able to do
Right.
this,
Right.
and also to know the music. That's where I think I've got a slight advantage over some who may just be coming in learning right now. But I've had so
Right.
much contact with
r-
the
Right.
music and with jazz musicians and piano and different instruments. That's made a huge difference. So I can feel the music, and I know what it is, and
Right.
I know I've heard it before. So
Right.
I'll try to play it again. But that's where we've ended
Yeah.
up. But the crossover is incredible. I've been taking notes over the last week or so since you got a hold of me, and just the comparisons of what I do and what you do, what I do on the court, what you do at the keyboard is really
Well,
there's so many crossovers.
yeah. And and yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit, David, because obviously your musical path has been quite a journey. From a classical background, you have this profound love for jazz and the history of jazz, the music of jazz, but I want to set that kind of to the side for a second because I want you to talk a little
Hmm.
bit about you're a professional tennis coach. You're there in Australia. You just mentioned that you've been coaching and teaching professional tennis for 40 years, right? And
Mm.
so I want you to talk a little bit about you, the discipline that you have uh, acquired over the years as a professional athlete, as a tennis player, and as a tennis coach. And I want you to talk about that a little bit in the demands of being an athlete and a professional coach, and how that parallels with the demands and the mental side that you have found that is necessary with regards to the study of music, whether it's classical or jazz, just the study of music in general. So can you
Hmm.
talk to us about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. 99% of it comes back to fundamentals, and I know you stress that a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Uh, and I'll start with paper practice. That is one of the most
Right,
important things that I've learned from you, and learning to step away from the instruments and learn
right,
theory and chords and scales
right,
and
right,
everything that is necessary to be able to play. The same thing
right.
happens with tennis, and something that I try to get through to the students, the players all the time, is that you don't have to be hitting tennis balls to improve. You don't have to be on the
Right,
court. So
right.
invariably, we get a wet day, the rain comes down, the kids are, oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we can't do anything. And the parents are even worse sometimes. They're thinking,
Right.
I'm not paying this guy to teach my kid how to play tennis if we can't hit tennis balls. But there's
Mm-hmm.
so much that they can learn off the court There's so much that they can learn about the history, about the strategies, about the basic things like the geometry of the chord. Everything I teach is really based in geometry and physics. And like we talk about in music, everything is only ascending, descending, scales, and arpeggios. That's it. It's pretty simple. Tennis is the same way. And I try to get that across to them, that if you understand the geometry of the court, that hasn't changed in well over 100 years. Court's exactly the same size. Physics haven't changed since forever. The way the racket acts on the ball, the way the ball spins, the way the ball bounces, that's constant. That's never going to change. The way the game's played is changing a little bit. Sure, the players are getting stronger and faster. They're hitting the ball harder. Equipment's changed. But basically, the game is exactly the same as it has always been. So there are things that you can learn off the court or just by watching. I say, just sit down and watch this match and see what you can pick out. Same thing, you talk about sit and listen. If you don't understand something, that's okay. All this, the thousands of pages of notes that you've put out to us, there's no way we can learn all that. But if we just sit and listen to music, listen to Monk play, listen to Miles Davis, listen to, I was listening to Stan Getz the other night. And it's just, there's always something you can learn without actually having to play, without having to hit a ball or get on the court. That session, I think I sent you the video about that, just basic backyard skills you can do with a racket and a ball. You don't have to have a court. You don't have to have a partner. You don't have to have anything, just racket and ball skills. Really, really important. So that's one of the most basic things I can say. And then it's just keep things simple. Keep your focus on what's important, what you really have to do. And I know I put down a couple of notes about what was I talking about? To improvisation. Limit your choices to increase your creativity.
That's right.
And you've been a big focus on that. Improvise on two notes. Improvise on one note. Well, I do the same thing with one of my favorite drills with the players is to get one player on the baseline, one at the net. I feed the ball to the baseline player. He has to hit a passing shot. He's got to get it past the net player, but he can only hit to certain parts of the court. He's not able to hit everywhere. He can only hit to that spot or this spot. And he's got to be creative with the way he hits the ball or she hits the ball. They have to be able to think their way through that without having tons and tons of options. And it's the same thing with music. And I really love that. It's made a big difference in the way that I play, the way that I approach things. But I'm hoping with tennis players, it's the same thing. You don't have infinite choices when you are on a tennis court. You can only hit a ball in certain places. You're limited by the court. The net gets in the way. Where are you going to put the ball? So you've got to be able to think your way through that.
It's interesting because that word's limitations, right? It's amazing to me how many musicians fail to realize there's limits. And I would think that in the professional athletic world and in tennis, as you just said, there's limits, right? And until we understand that limits does not mean anything's lacking. It doesn't mean that you cannot be creative or successful playing because of limitations. It's just the opposite. And if we don't understand the limitations, then what happens is mentally everything is way too confusing. And you've heard me say this before in the past too, that if music, and I would assume the same thing for tennis, we could just take the word music out of this sentence and slide tennis into it. That I say all the time, if music is easy upstairs, if music is easy here, then you have a chance, you have a shot at being successful downstairs in your hands. If music, on the other hand, is complicated upstairs, then I can guarantee you, you have no shot downstairs in your hands. And I would assume that the same could be said for tennis. If tennis is simple here, then you got a shot with the racket in your hand. You actually have a shot. But if tennis is complicated up here in the head, in your mind, then good luck with that racket in your hand. You're going to need a big racket because the chances are you're not going to be very successful. Am I stepping out way too far on a limb there?
Not not at all. That's exactly. I try to get players to again limit their choices, keep it as simple as
Right.
possible, and
Right.
understand that if you can hit a great old American tennis coach, Vic Braden, who used to say, learn how to hit the same old boring shot every time, and you'll always be a winner.
All right.
So you just
Right.
have to learn to not get complicated.
Right.
You know, if I'm on the court and I've got a choice of a shot, I just play the shot that I know I can play.
Right.
And if my opponent picks it up and gets it back, too good.
Right.
That's just the way it is. But I only have one. I only have one thing in my mind. I only have one shot to
Right.
worry about.
Right.
Instead of trying to approach the ball with, oh gosh, if I hit it here or hit it there, or maybe I can. Maybe he'll think I'm going to hit it. It's no,
Right.
you're done. That's
Right.
you just cannot play.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just always amazed at the similarities between the discipline that is needed to become an accomplished musician, how those same disciplines apply to anyone wanting to become an accomplished athlete. I'm always amazed at just how much of an overlap uh, the disciplines are. It's fascinating. So
Hmm.
you already have built into your DNA, being a professional athlete and a professional coach. You already have built into your DNA that which is needed to become a very accomplished and successful musician. So, with that in mind, I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit to the music side of things. So, share a little bit with the Jazz Piano Skills listeners about your jazz journey. Be If you would be candid enough just to kind of share with everybody, how you practice, how you approach things at the piano, how you approach things away from the piano. What has been the most frustrating aspect of studying jazz and studying piano, jazz piano? What are things that you found that have come very natural or very comfortable for you? I know that's a lot to cover, but if you could kind of just speak openly about those various aspects of your journey.
Well, comparing jazz piano with classical piano, it is a nightmare. It really is. I didn't realize how much I didn't know. That's probably that's as honest as I can be. There is so much that I've
Right.
just in the last 2 years. There's so much that I've learned. And look, I've listened to jazz for years and years and years and years, and I love it. I love to listen to it, and I listen to
Right.
players play and think, this is great. This must be really easy. It's not, because you start to get into. I know there are only 12 tones, and I know it's not
Right.
limitless, but it feels like it sometimes. But what I'm doing now is really getting back to basics of things like progressions, 251, 3-6-2-5-1s,
Right.
really working on those, building up from the shells to the three note to two-handed voicings, even some rootless voicings. I mean, I love Bill Evans, so
Right.
you've got to throw some of those in as well.
Right. Right.
But I have started to do a lot more away from the piano work with
Good.
just writing down, okay, what's this progression? What's the fifth
Right.
of the key of B? What's the
Right.
sixth of E flat?
Right.
And you put that out on the master class a few weeks ago with the little flashcard ideas of fill in the blanks and do this away from the piano.
Right.
That was so good, and it's something that I really have to do.
Mhm.
Look, I can read music. I sit down and read the music and I'll play it, but I want to be able to do that and get in the middle of a piece and still be able to keep going. I mean, one of my big, horrible story, when I was young, I was playing classical stuff, playing at a recital, playing Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody. I got in the middle of it and I got stuck. I couldn't remember. I just could not remember it. I didn't have the music.
Right.
And I got stuck and I played it. I went back 2 measures. Oh, let's try it again. Oh, it was so frustrating. Nearly walked off. But somehow I got through it. But that's what I love about jazz. I can actually make those mistakes and they sound, as long as I make them 2 times in a row, it sounds okay. So,
oh, that's great. Oh, yeah.
but that's
Man.
really is
So,
my goal right now, is to be comfortable enough with enough of the changes, enough of the rhythms. I know we're getting to the rhythmic patterns now, and that's a very, very
right,
important part. And luckily, I can feel that a
right,
little bit easier. It's not something I have to
right. Good.
count out all the time, because I did that. My
Yeah.
teacher in France was adamant about counting and getting the time right. And
Right.
playing Debussy,
Right.
if you don't get
Right.
the rhythm right, it sounds horrible. So she was very big on
Correct.
that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's really, I need to do a lot more work away from the
Mm.
piano and get the things in my head. As you say, if they're clear in my head, it'll come out in the fingers. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, that is so important, and you're right. I do stress that a lot, right? The study of music away from the instrument, and the things that you've mentioned that you're doing is absolutely gigantic. It's monumental, right? Understanding keys, being able to spell your scales, being
Mm-hmm.
able to identify the chords that are produced by the scale, being able to spell those chords, being able to understand the function of those chords, that, oh, that's the 2 chord, that's the 5 chord, that's the 1 chord.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you know that's foundational type information. That the reality is this: uh, if that is not if you do not have a command of that data if you do not have a command of that data, then it really is irrelevant how much technique you have, how much skill you have physically on the instrument. But if you do not have the command of that data, you will never ever develop into a jazz pianist. Those are just brutal
Mm-hmm.
facts, right? There's no shortcut, right? There's no, learn how to play jazz piano in 30 days, learn, play your first gig in 90 days. I mean, there's none of this shortcut stuff, even though that a lot of times people fall for that, thinking that there's a shortcut. But like my dad always used to say, there's no longer way to get anywhere than a shortcut. So uh, if everybody looks for that magic sentence, or that magic pill, or that magic wand, or that shortcut that's going to save them years of practicing, but the reality of it is it's just not there, right? I mean, and I think I speak
Yeah.
for all of us. We've all tried to find it, but it ain't there, right? It's just not there.
Well, you can get to the point where, sure, you can play the notes, you can play the tunes, that's fine. But it just, we're going to do that anyway. And what I really enjoy about what we're doing now with the progressions of the lessons, if you look at face
Right.
value of what you're putting out there, it's very complicated, it's very technical, it's very
Right.
academic. But then all of a
Right.
sudden, boom, there's a tune. And guess what? All that stuff we've been working on fits into the tune. Hey, this is good. Because
Right.
in the end,
Right.
that's what we want to do. We
Yeah.
want to play music. We want to play tunes. But
We want to play music.
if I just want to
Yeah.
read music and play out of a book, I can do that. That's fine. But this goes that next
Yeah.
level, really, really more important, I think. It's like on the tennis court. The
Yeah.
first thing I look at when the players, can he or she move? What's the movement like? I don't care about hitting a ball. Anybody, I can teach somebody to hit a shot in 5 minutes. That's easy. As long as you stand there, you don't move, and I feed the ball to you exactly in the right spot. I'll teach you how to hit that ball. And there are a lot of players who do that. But you move them away 3 or 4 steps, and the ball starts to bounce a bit higher or lower out to the side, and a bit of spin, and you have to adapt. You can't do it. They just fall apart. So the basics have to be there, and you've got to understand the basics, like understand the functions, understand the chord progressions, understand the differences in the keys and how they work in tunes. That's why I said yesterday about giant steps. You've got keys running all over the place.
Right. But that's interesting, because if you're gonna label anything a shortcut, the irony is the shortcut would be the grunt work, all the grunt work that we're doing, right? All the grunt work of the keys and the chord scale relationships. Because I tell students that start with me all the time, like if a new student was coming into my studio tomorrow, David, here would be one of the very first things I would say to them. I'd say, okay, there's 2 ways we can approach this. I could teach you the way. I could take the path where we're going to work on do a lot of grunt work, a lot of grunt work for a significant amount of time. And at the end of that grunt work, you're going to be able to play thousands of tunes. That's approach 1. Approach 2, tell me what song you want to learn. And we can poke around on that song for about 6 months and see how well it goes. Or we can poke around on it till you get tired. How about that? We'll poke around on it till you get tired of that song and you want to try your hand at another song. And we can do that, and we can flounder around that way for as many years as you're willing to pay me tuition. And see how that goes. So which approach? That's approach B. So do you want approach A or do you want approach B? Because that's really what it comes down to. If you do the grunt work, because the grunt work is found in all the tunes, the skills are found in all the tunes. So if you're learning the skills that are in all the tunes, then you'll be able to play all the tunes. But if you want to just work and flounder around on a piece of music, trying to put pieces of a puzzle together, we can go that route too, but it's just not going to have the same benefit. So, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
That's the choice that lies before you or before anybody wanting to study jazz piano. That really is the choice. Option A, option B, pick it and we'll go.
And the funny thing is, you learn that one tune, spend months and months, and then a year later you've forgotten it. You can't play it.
So you can't play it.
What happens then?
Well, we go back, we pick another tune. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God. I've got a repertoire of 6 tunes that I can play, and it took me 12 years to learn them now. No, but it is the same with the tennis players. They want to go out and play. They want to go out and hit balls. And I see the kids do this all the time. They go out, and in almost every case, if I turn 4 kids loose on the tennis court with balls and rackets, they will go to the baseline and they'll start whacking balls back and forth. Every second or third ball goes in the net or in the fence or over the fence, and they waste all their time just because they think they want to play. And I said, no, just move in closer, hit the shortest, softest shot you can hit, and hit 100 of those. So in 3 minutes, they'll hit dozens and dozens of balls, and they get their feel, they start to move better, they get their focus, the attention's better, and then they can start to move back and move back and move back. But you can't go out and play a full match the first thing up. You just don't have the skills to do it. So it'll look like tennis, sort of, but not really.
Yeah. You're saying so many good things there, David. First of all, you mentioned the word skills. You said you got to know the skills of tennis if you're going to want to be able to play the tennis game, right? The game of tennis. You got to know the skills. Yep. Or you can do things that kind of look like tennis, but it's not really tennis.
Hmm.
And the same thing happens in music as well. You got to learn the skills in order to play the game of music. And if you don't learn the
That's right.
skills in order to play the games of music, then you're putzing around on your instrument with things that kind of sound like music, but it's not.
Hmm. No, there's a big difference there, and that's I just think it's so important to get back to basics and learn the fundamentals, know what you have to do to build on it. Because if you don't have the base, you can't build anything. It just
Yeah,
all
that's right.
falls apart, and
Yeah,
it proves itself very quickly. You know, if
yeah,
you're trying to, I don't know, run uh, a big scale or playing 17 chords in a row and changing, if you don't if you don't know them, yeah, you can hunt and peck and figure out a way to get there, but it's going to sound
yeah,
terrible. And the rhythm, and this is what has got me over the past few weeks, is just the rhythm and the how important that is to feel
yeah.
the music. So and tennis is the same way. There's a rhythm to the game that
There's a
you
rhythm,
it
right?
makes it easier. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's really
you know
interesting. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up because there absolutely is a rhythm to any athletic game, right? There's a rhythm to tennis. There's a rhythm to
hmm.
it, and that rhythm that we've been studying uh, this year in jazz piano skills and been exploring in the master classes every week, the, we've gotten to the point where we realize, at least I hope we've gotten to the point where we realize that everybody that's studying and kind of going on the journey with us this year, that, notes by themselves have no excitement. There's no excitement. There's no musical note that's exciting
Hmm.
to me. Not one. You could play all 12 of them. None of them do anything for me. So if you place the middle C for me, it does nothing. It does nothing for me. Play D flat, it does nothing for me. D, nothing. E flat, nothing. In fact, it's just all blah, 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 right? But as soon as you start adding rhythm to those blah, 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 blah notes. Now we got something. Now we have something. And of course, I
Hmm.
always use Duke Ellington C Jam Blues as a validation to this point that, here's two
Yeah.
notes, the note G and the note C. Nothing special about those two blah notes, right? But look what Duke Ellington does with those two notes. Yeah, pretty cool,
Mm.
right?
Well, it's
So,
like Coleman Hawkins' one note samba.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, right, right. So I would imagine in the tennis world, if an athlete in the tennis world would really stop focusing on trying to make the great shot and actually would focus more on learning the rhythm of the game and how to control and manage the rhythm of the game, I bet they would be a lot more successful on the court than always trying to hit the great shot.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at great players, and they look good. They look smooth. They don't force anything. Same with pianists.
Right,
I mean, you
right,
watch.
right.
I mean, we talk about Oscar all the time, but
Oh, yeah.
you can't. You've got to have the ability to play like that, but it looks easy and it looks oh, one of
Right.
the when I was coaching at the National Tennis Center, the Harlem Globetrotters were playing across the road one night, and one of them came in
Wait a
one
minute.
day and
Was
said,
this, was,
"Oh, can
wait a minute.
anybody here
Was
for a hit?"
Wait a minute now. Is this the Harlem Globetrotters with Meadowlark, Lemon, and Curly?
No, no. That's when I was a little kid. No, this this is
Oh man,
no.
because
This was
that's
the
the
next
Harlem.
generation. This would have been
Okay, well,
yeah, I
to me
know,
that's the Harlem
I know.
Globetrotters.
And, yeah, and Red Clots and the Washington Generals, and yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
Um, no, this was uh, no, this was it was a
Okay,
good crew. It would have been 19 what 89, something like that.
Okay, way past
Anyway,
Melbourne.
one of them came into the pro shop one day and said, "Oh, can I have a hit?" So we went on one of the stadium courts, and I was hitting with him, but just to watch him move around the court, I mean, he's about 6'8", so he could cover the whole court in one step. But there was nothing forced. There was nothing unbalanced, and he wasn't a tennis player. But all he had to do was get to the ball, and he
Right.
sort of knew what to do with it. But that was a perfect example of
Yeah.
a good athlete who can do something because he has the skills, he's got the movement, the balance, and all
Right.
of that.
Right.
And it was it was great fun.
Right.
And then the best thing was that he said, "Come over to the game tonight, and we'll catch up afterwards." And I went down to the locker room afterwards. We had an 18-month-old son at the time, and he said, "Here, this is for your son for when he grows up." Handed me a pair of his autographed basketball shoes. Everybody in the team had autographed them, and we've got those hanging on the wall now. No, it's been great. So, but what I was thinking was the
Yeah.
things that go through the mind when you're playing music or playing sports or anything like that. One of my favorite books of all time is The Inner Game of Tennis, Timothy Galway,
Oh, right.
who talks
Right.
about
Right.
the self one and self two. Self one, the conscious mind gets in the way all the time. You make a mistake, you idiot. Why can't you play? And he says the answer to that is because you're no good. So you don't listen to that. You listen to self two, which is the unconscious. Just let it happen. The body knows what to do, and it will get the job done. However, and he was speaking at a national tennis teachers conference that I went to in New York one year. And the fallacy people think is that they read the book and think, all you got to do is just let it happen, that it's all in there. He said, no, it's not. You still have to have fundamentals. You've still got to have the skills.
Right.
But then once you do that, you let those go and you don't try to force anything. So very similar to Kenny Werner with his effortless mastery. And
Well,
it is
right.
almost identical.
Yes. Right. Well, just like what you just said, let it happen, right? But if you don't have it, you can't let it happen. There's no it to let happen,
That's right.
right? And the it is are the skills that we're talking about, the skills of tennis or the skills of music, right? If you don't have the it, what you can't let it happen if you don't have it, you know. Now
Yeah.
that book that you mentioned, the Inner Game of Tennis, that was a big book, right? I mean, that was a very popular book, not only for tennis players, but that I remember in college I had to read that. That was required reading for musicians. In fact, there was another book called The Inner Game of Music that came out after that.
That's right.
But everybody said, don't read The Inner Game, read The Inner Game of Tennis. Even as musicians, we were told to read The Inner Game of Tennis because
and the funny thing
was talking about this is what we were talking about today, is because the overlap is so what it's like the same.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is it's not a technical instruction book. There's very little technical instruction about how to play the game. It's all about getting out of your own way, understanding what you can do, and he throws in a few technical tips, things like on volleys, get down a bit lower or whatever, or you spend time watching the ball as it spins. So you work on your focus and you work on appreciation of what the ball is going to do and where it is and what it's going to do in space. Sort of the same thing when we're playing piano, and you just feel the fingers and the fingering gets right, and it just feels right, and you don't have to force yourself to do it, but you get to the point where that becomes automatic, and that's I mean, I suppose that's what I'm trying to get to right now is
right. Yeah. Well, you've heard me, David, you've heard me say this many times. I say it in podcasts and we've discussed this in master classes. I always say that, I always say, I ask students when they want to study music, they say they want to study music. And I always ask the question, well, that's wonderful. So what is, I say that if you want to study music, please tell me, what is music the study of? If you want to study music, what is music the study of? And of course, they become speechless right away because they don't know how to answer the question, what music is the study of. They want to study it, but they can't tell me what it's the study of, which I find to be very interesting, right? So I'm quick to point out that music is not the study of dots and buttons. It is not that, where you're looking at a piece of music, that dot means push that button, that dot means push that button, right? I say no, professional musicians play shapes and sounds. That's what we play, shapes and sounds. So in essence, then we have to study the shapes and sounds of music. And I would imagine that in the tennis world, as a tennis coach, there are the shapes and sounds of tennis, the moves, the motions, the feel of tennis, the same kind of thing, right? That you have to study as an athlete, as a professional tennis player, if you're going to have success.
Well, we do. We talk about shaping shots. If you're hitting a serve, you want to hit it to a certain spot. It has to have a certain amount of spin, or it has to go to a certain place. You shape a forehand or a backhand so that it clears the net. There's only two objects in tennis is very similar to music. We go up and down in music. We've got scales and arpeggios. In tennis, you only have two objectives. You've got to get the ball over the net and make it land in the court. That's all you've got to do. If you can do that, then we start to work on more spin, more speed, more direction, a little bit of variety. But the game itself is pretty simple when you think about it. And I'll go back to Pete Sampras all the time. He won 14 Grand Slam singles titles by hitting a ball deep cross court, back and forth till he got a short ball, go to the net, hit a volley, win the point, game, set, and match. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple, right?
And you look at the best players, and they do. They are incredible now. I've got to admit it. They're just they're great players.
Right.
But I think Rod Laver one time said something about you don't need to hit a $50,000 shot when a 50-cent shot will win it. So you don't have to get complicated.
Right. Yeah. I would.
And you mentioned this. Yes, you met. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say.
No, you mentioned this the other day that jazz players abhor silence. They don't want to have nothing going on. So we got to stick more notes in here. Stick more notes in. No, you don't.
Right.
No, you don't. Make it simple. Make it simple.
Right. Right. It's funny. I imagine that you could say to a young tennis player, if you wanted to, right? This would be, I guess this would be a really bad business plan in tennis as a tennis coach, to say to them on their first lesson, listen, when you can hit that ball over the net 300 times in a row without missing, then come back for lesson 2. Right? That would probably be a bad business plan. Just like in music, it would be a bad business plan for me to say, look, when you can play your 12 major scales up and down the piano 1 octave and your arpeggios up and down 1 octave, then come back for lesson 2. Right? Because my point being is there's a lot of skill that's needed to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you take that player and say you got to hit the ball back and forth 300 times, but put him 2 meters away from the net and hit the ball softly, we'll do that. We'll do that. We used to hit, hundreds and hundreds of shots in a row.
Right.
But it's like skiing. You can't go down a black run if you're not a good skier. You just totally lose control. You can't go beyond your control. Same with piano. We can't. I cannot play, a Chopin sonata. Almost anything. I play a lot of Chopin, but there's some things that I just physically cannot play. It's just not possible. So that's just the fact of the matter. And same thing with tennis.
Right. It's always fascinating to me to listen to jazz musicians as they age, as they age, as they get older. You know, physically they can't do what they did when they were younger. I mean, there's a reality to that. But they end up playing better as
Mm.
they get older. They don't have the physical skill that they used to have, but their musical skill is by far much more superior, right? So
Yeah.
there's something to be said. There's something to be said about that, right? So if we could play,
Well,
if
they,
we could play, if we could play old young, that would be fantastic.
yeah. I remember I heard Earl Hines in Washington one year at Blues Alley, and he would have
Mm-hmm.
been very old at that time. But you know, and this is a guy who'd been around with Louis Armstrong in the 1920s, 1930s.
Right, right,
Just amazing pianist, but
right.
still playing really, really well. You're right. Some of them don't play all that well. We had McCoy Tyner out here a couple of years ago, and he wasn't well and wasn't playing all that well. So it is sad sometimes, but
Yeah,
they still
yeah,
you can still feel it. They've got the feeling for it, and that's
yeah.
it's much
I
better.
remember.
Believe me, it's much better watching old. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember. I
much better
remember one
watching
time on.
old pianists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, I
go ahead.
remember
Go
one
ahead.
time on the Johnny Carson show, they had UB Blake come on, and he was celebrating like his 90th
Mm,
birthday or his 95th birthday, something like that. And I think he lived to be like 96 years old or but anyway, he was in his 90s and he had a big birthday celebration and the curtain opened up and they helped him out to the piano. I mean, he was old, he was had a walker. They get him out to the piano, he sits down and he plays a little solo version of I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And of course, this is a 90-year-old man
mm,
sitting at the piano playing, and he played it so beautifully, and he wasn't doing anything fancy, not because he didn't want to do anything fancy. Physically, he was 90 plus years old, right? So
mm.
he played within the confines of his ability. And I remember
Yeah.
after he got done playing, a huge standing ovation from the band, huge standing ovation from the audience. Johnny Carson was on his feet. Heck, I was on my feet sitting in my living room watching. It was fantastic. It was absolutely beautiful. And there's a great lesson. There's a great lesson there for all of us, right?
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
I think that lesson.
Although
I
it
think
is,
that lesson.
yeah.
Well, I think that lesson is that regardless of where each of us are in our own abilities right now, regardless of our age, with the abilities that we have, we can make really nice music. We can make
Mm.
really nice music.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the benefits of musicians as they get older. They just limit what they can do, and that's fine. They'll still sound fine. I can't say the same about old tennis players. So,
Right.
some some of
Yeah.
them, it really is. But they've been through so much over their lives, and they put their bodies through all
Well,
sorts
that's
of tortures and
yeah.
traveling the
I could
world and playing
right.
and every day. It does take its toll. So
Yeah.
that's a total body thing, and it is sad sometimes to see some of them play, but some of them are still playing
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I'm shooting for the 80 and over Wimbledon championships. That's my
Yeah. Good. Yeah, do they in tennis do they, you know,
no.
like I know in golf they have like the seniors tour in golf. Do they have the
Hmm,
same kind of thing in tennis, like a seniors division in
they do.
tennis? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they do, and for the most part, it's pretty good. McEnroe started that a few years ago. He was one of the key players. Jimmy Connors played for a little bit. Borg still plays a little bit. Um, we're waiting for Roger Federer to show up on the senior tour and just wipe everybody away. But
Right. Right. Right.
and he will.
Oh
He
my.
will. One leg, he'll do it.
Yeah. Right.
But no, they do play. They do play, and it's interesting, but it's not. It's not the way they used to play. That's the thing. So
Right.
they're more
Right.
limited
Right.
than a musician, I think.
Right. For sure. For sure. Well, listen, my friend, we've been yakking for an hour now, man. So we're going to wrap this thing up. I cannot begin to tell you. I cannot begin to tell you what a joy it has been to sit here and learn about your musical journey, classical and jazz, your professional tennis journey as well, and how you're actually drawing strength from both of those disciplines to help each one of those disciplines. It's fascinating, and I think it's a great lesson for all of us to take to heart as well. So, on behalf of all the Jazz Piano Skills listeners, behalf of myself, David, I want to thank you for just taking the time out of your day and sharing yourself with the community. It's been a joy.
Bob, thank you so much for what you do and what you do for everyone. I know all of us in the classes, all of us around the world, we really enjoy what you do, and hopefully we'll make you proud one of these days, and we'll actually learn some things. So it'll never end.
You already do, my friend. You already make me proud. So, David, thank you so much, and we're gonna have you back. I'm gonna have you back on again soon, man. This has been way too short of time, so we'll have to do a part 2 here soon.
Well, I'll have to dream up some more stories then. I'll have to go back through my diaries and see what I've got.
All right, David. Listen, man, have a great weekend, and I will see you online at Jazz Piano Skills.
You will. I've got to get back to the books and study for this week. So, and I can't wait to see what tune you're going to come up with this week.
Me too. Okay. All right. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Bob.